Okay, so lately I've just been getting a lot of recommendations about New Age philosophy and its relationship to cults, and sort of how these ways of thinking and ways of helping the self through gurus and people who are considered experts in the field and sort of looked up to for solutions and help by average people, how these sort of things being connected through economic structures are, needing to be criticized and taken seriously because these people are making money and taking advantage of people, yada, yada, yada. So I've been getting a lot of recommendations like that in my, I don't know, sources of digital information about what people care about. And, it's always the same way of having a conversation and the discourse around these things. And the discourse is always dialectical in nature. Something is presented through a specific lens and it generates a specific response. And to engage with the discussion, you have to, you end up leaning in one of these, either you're in support of something or you are not in support of it, basically. And I've never seen any other type of response beyond the critique or the disagreement with the critique. And for myself, as somebody who has studied starting in holistic nutrition, being suspicious of the standard regulated ways of accessing health and self-improvement, to getting a degree in psychology, with a minor in political science and sociology and philosophy, studying, the full range of the spectrum. It's like, I guess for me, I had the crisis of language happen so many times that now when I engage with these topics, I'm so unsatiated by having to take a supportive position or a disagreement position and having to try to find satisfaction and meaning in my life through one of these positions. And just like, I can't deny how unsatisfying it is to have to form an opinion about something based on the contextualization that was presented to me by other people and their approach to a topic, and then trying to figure out and come to a conclusion on my own through that. And, I can see that happening in the response and the collective conversation that emerges out of these things. And then even people who are involved, who are receiving the criticism, end up responding to the criticism, and, nobody gets anywhere because now we're focused on that individual defending themselves or whether the criticism is warranted or not. And we're missing the entire point, which is this pragmatic and conducive to generating a positive sense of well-being for people and, reducing unnecessary suffering in our experience and other people's. So for me, this is a really great arena to exemplify the pragmatic application of creative thinking and open-mindedness, in the sense that I think intuitively we are not satisfied, nor can we be satisfied in taking a position in positive or negative form through these debates, if that makes sense. So what I mean by that is, if self-help is contextualized in like Tony Robbins, or in this case it's Teal Swan, who has like a very spiritual, overlay to her very basic, not really even up for debate, very common sense approaches to self-help in terms of relationships and, just very general psychology topics. And then the other video that I was watching, it was in relationship to neuro-linguistic programming and sort of the cult that has formed around that, which sort of moves into the realm of productivity and business and creating your entrepreneurship dreams and being successful. And yeah, basically what I'm trying to say here is that thinking for ourselves means that you will not end up having an opinion. When you apply creative thinking to these cultural debates or these discussions that emerge because of a specific lens of application to understand a pattern that we're seeing in the way that people are understanding something about reality, you'll end up not having an opinion because you don't need one. You don't need one. You don't have to fall and land anywhere to be able to accurately, to the best of our ability, as humanly objective as possible, be able to engage with something and understand it in a way that when new things are brought to your awareness, they'll just naturally flow and be integrated into your understanding of something because it's fluid. So yeah, what I mean by this is that when you are, creatively thinking and sort of practicing freeing yourself from having to form an opinion about something, at first it'll be difficult and it'll feel very isolating because the only way that we can interact with other people through what everybody is paying attention to or the things that are happening is to, communicate through shared opinions or the disharmony of opinions, and trying to understand how we should orientate ourselves to a given topic through reading about different perspectives and different information and different knowledge and all of these different sources of how other people are understanding something that was originally presented to us through a very specific framework. So, creatively thinking is to sort of just forget what other people are talking about for a minute and think about how this was presented to us. Because anything that is being presented is being generated and understood through the human experience. So whether it's presented and claiming to be objective or subjective or whatever other justification, scientific or whatever, right? It's like, it doesn't matter. We have to acknowledge, appreciate, and value that it's always coming out of the lens of humanity. So it's already an opinion, right? It's like none of these things, none of these frameworks exist outside of the human perception. So then when we're presented with something, we stop for a minute and we think, do I need to pay attention to this? Like this thing, all these little pieces that form what we're considering to be this topic. So in this case, New Age philosophy, it's like that has a definition. It is defined, it is a category, and there are things that it is and there are things that it is not. So the second that I accept that, I'm working within a definition, and now I'm working within an accepted framework so that everything I'm going to say is related and in reference to the categorical limitations that I've accepted in stepping into paying attention to this thing. So, with creative thinking, we want to look at, they'll tell you, like, when artists are drawing something, you don't look at the thing itself, you look at the shapes and the shading, and you sort of take it apart into the pieces of the whole. So it's the same thing with theoretical frameworks and language and articulation and categorization, right? This category that I'm going to form an opinion about, and opinions are aesthetic at the end of the day, where I'm going to be paying attention to this and giving it my energy. It's like, well, what are the shapes of it? What are the shades of this category that is New Age philosophy? And, to become good at creatively thinking and being able to engage with something as a self, to question the category in the first place, takes practice, but, it creates an artistic skill in a way where you're able to, like, you're not reacting anymore. You're not just reacting to art, you're actually considering the creation of the art, if that makes sense. So this idea of New Age philosophy and the danger of it, or its connection to capitalism and neo-capitalism and cults and all of these different things, and we have statistical measurements and definitions of what a cult is and how a cult functions, and then we apply what somebody is doing, the patterns of their behavior and the patterns of the response to what they are saying, and we apply it to our scale of measurement, which is these statistically validated and reliable questions or descriptors of what a cult is, and there's this whole process of analysis that we go through, and we justify things, and then we create these lenses to gauge the value of something and form opinions about it. And I'm affording people the respect that I would want to be afforded, where we're trying to establish the value of something relative to the human condition and fostering the well-being of people to the best of our ability and the most reliable way. So it's like that's happening, and all of that is contained in the lens of analysis, and in that analysis we're just regurgitating these systems of measurement, and then we get the exact same conversation consistently, and yet nothing about our human experience has changed. We still have the exact same systems happening. Okay, my hair is braided because I'm getting ready to go to the gym, but I'm trying to finish my thought, So yeah, basically what I'm saying is that creative thinking makes sense in the art world, where it's all about interpretation and subjectivity and accepting that we're working in this realm that is completely subjective and based on aesthetics and opinion, and questioning why measure the mathematical precision of the symmetry of something, if that's the most pragmatic way to appreciate the value of a piece of art or not. And what I'm saying is that is exactly what we are not doing when it comes to language and linguistics and categorization and how we are defining, we're basically drawing and labeling and creating descriptors and out of our experience of reality to define the way that we are understanding these patterns that we're seeing. So it's like, well, the term New Age philosophy, it's like, is that even something that I want to understand anything through? Or even like a more modern thing, the gun debate, like the debate about guns. It's like, what even is that? Like what? Like, is that in any way the best, most aesthetic, most pragmatic lens for me to understand people and like what's happening? And like a gun and our relationship to a gun that we created and that people utilize and that we're noticing dysfunction with, it's like nothing is changing. So for me, the first thing that I want to change is the way that I'm approaching something, the way that I'm being engaged with about something, because I'm not satisfied with the opinions that people are asking me to take for me to be able to exist as an empathetic being on this planet. Because at the end of the day, I have to sit with myself and my own standards of how I understand empathy. And then I'm disappointed in myself because I'm left in a dead end, because the way that I entered into something is already a dead end, because it's been a dead end since the conception of these linguistic categories that we are working with and that people are drawing our attention through to be able to talk to each other, and at the end of the day, it's just not working. So again, creative thinking is to just think immediately, this is a categorization. Somebody made this up. Language is all linguistic, right? And to not be afraid of that. It might take more effort, and you might be left in a limbo state for a bit longer, and people might not appreciate what you're trying to do, but you will. You will, at the end of the day, you will absolutely appreciate your capacity to develop your artistic skill when it comes to the realm of theoretical mental frameworks and, rationality and the way that we understand truth. Because at the end of the day, you're just working with yourself